France just had its first gay marriage 11 days ago. The country legalized same-sex marriage and gay adoption. So it was a huge victory for gay rights in France. And the couple that got married was Vincent, a 40-year-old, and Bruno, a 30-year-old. And they've been very outspoken, very handsome gentlemen. They've been very outspoken about gay rights. They're very, very excited to be the first gay couple to get married. There were 200 members of the press there. There were French politicians there. And it's a great story. It's a very feel-good story. But just last Sunday, there was this massive anti-gay protest that took place in Paris. About 150,000 people attended. And these anti-gay protests happened a few times. Some of them broke out in violence. But for the vast majority of them, it was just peaceful and it was fine. So it is what it is, dude. We're moving forward.
So obviously that was some of the more confrontational protests.
Yeah, so I want to be clear about how these protests went down. So the last protest that happened included 150 protesters. Some reports
150,000.
150,000. I apologize, but you know, there were some reports that there might have been more, but most media outlets are reporting 150,000. As with any type of protest that has that many people, usually something will happen. There'll be some extremists or some people who want to cause problems. I mean, think about the Occupy protesters. The majority of them were peaceful. It was civil disobedience. It wasn't a big deal. But then you would have anarchists come in and they would kind of spoil what the Occupy protesters were doing. So it was similar with this. I mean, I know I'm giving a little too much credit to anti-gay protesters, but I just think it's unfair to make them all seem like they were violent. For the most part, they were peaceful.
No, I understand, and I'm glad you gave a context. At the same time, I'm shocked by the huge anti-gay sentiment in France. Because I'll tell you, I mean, and it probably has more to do with European culture of protest, etc. But here in the U.S., you'd be, to get 150,000 protesters, and we're a much larger country, obviously, right?
Well,
I know, it depends on which city you're in, obviously, right? But to any protest, I mean, when we're invading a country, when we're doing violating every constitutional right there is, you'd be hard pressed to get 150 dudes out there, let alone 150,000. And so, look, obviously France has gotten to the right place, and overall the majority agree you should have gay marriage. It appears, at least so their democratically elected leaders have gone in that direction. And they're the 14th country in the world, so they're one of the pioneers in allowing for gay marriage. But it's disconcerting to see that many people who are against gay marriage, violence or not, right?
Yeah.
And I get that every protest has outliers. I mean, apparently there were some Scottish people in that protest. What was with the bagpipes in the beginning?
I don't know.
I didn't think that was a French thing.
It was a little surprising, yeah.
Okay.
But, you know, I think that they are moving in the right direction. And of course, any type of social change is met with some resistance. And you just kind of have to not brush that resistance aside, but you have to deal with the fight that people are putting up. And you have the right to protest it, but you're on the wrong side of history. So I think what the politicians did, of course, it went through a legislative process in France. It was the right way to go. I'm very happy about it, and we're seeing similar movements here in the U.S. as well.
Right. Nothing's guaranteed, even if you're on the right side of history. So it's not necessarily going to be easy, and they got past it in France. But I'll tell you, even if the U.S. government said we're making gay marriage legal and we're making it mandatory, I still don't think you can get 150,000 fat Americans to show up at a protest.